All right, welcome to the conversation. Let's have a conversation about whether the left wing is going to win the future. Now, normally I'm super optimistic about that. These days, though, I need someone to help explain to me where the left is. And so we brought on Michael Levitin here, who might be just the guy. He's a journalist, professor, and author of the new book, Generation Occupy, Reawakening American Democracy. Michael, it's good to have you on. You've caught me on a bit of a cranky day. So I'm gonna come in with some skepticism and let's see how we sort this out. So what do you mean by Generation Occupy? Well, let's start there.
Generation Occupy. Well, as people have recognized, many have not, but this is the 10-year anniversary. It was in September when Zuccotti Park was formally taken over as an encampment by people who launched Occupy Wall Street. You know, I see after following the trends that took off, Occupy the movement only lasted really several months in the public eye, that it was visible. Then the camps were cleared, and we all know the story. It sort of disappeared. Almost into thin air. And most people, really a lot of people, Americans, didn't look or see or think about the movement very much more after that. It left us with the language of the 99%, right? It gave us the crisis of inequality. It put it on the map for the public. And that's what most people recognize. My story attempts to chart the dramatic and really quite remarkable last decade that we've just gone through. The second half of Obama's presidency, and of course the Trump presidency. But the social movements that emerged in this period and the radically aggressive demands that became much more mainstream after Occupy and Bernie Sanders and people on the left voiced these once fringe demands that have now become progressive priorities that are in the mainstream conversation, and they're what are being fought over in the reconciliation bill for trillions of dollars right now in Congress. This generation of protesters and activism is what I referred to that Occupy ignited and that we've seen flourish in a decade since.
Have we though? So that's where my skepticism comes in. So on the one hand, yeah, totally familiar with all of the changes that has happened. Occupy Wall Street was great. I covered it there, and I even launched Wolfpack there to get money out of politics. But I also attended the meetings, and the left loves picking each other apart. And so now some of those things became popular. The policy proposals that came out of it, but at the same time, it hasn't done anything to actually get them into law. So we're still getting mauled in Congress. We're getting mauled in the media. And I know that the younger generation is very progressive. I talk about it all the time on the show, and I'm thrilled about that. But honestly, I don't even see them anymore. Okay, where's the army behind AOC and the Just Democrats and demanding this or demanding that? We're trying, we on TYT pushed for $15 minimum wage to be included in the COVID relief bill, but where is Generation Occupy? I see the right wing everywhere, right? And just where are they? Where's the younger generation that's supposed to come and be the cavalry?
They're coming for you this weekend, Cenk. I promise it. No, listen, I think that clearly the coronavirus, clearly the end of the Trump era and what we saw in 2020 with the George Floyd protests. I think that if you didn't see it then you must not have been looking. I think that what we saw in 2020, this coming together of the economic inequality argument that Occupy made a decade ago, really joining with the racial inequality and injustice argument, we saw tens of millions of people in the streets making demands for systemic reform. That is not going away. That generation is here to stay. What we have with the climate protests, we didn't see them recently at the COP26, at least not in America. But the previous year, just before the coronavirus, you saw millions of young people taking to the streets as part of the global climate strikes. And right here in America, usually the rest of the world protests and Americans kind of sit tight. This generation showed up for those climate strikes. They showed up for the March for Our Lives, which is still a vibrant movement demanding gun reforms and sensible
No,
Well,
but Michael,
I mean-
I got to push back. Again, I'm on your side. I desperately want this to be true, and I know that the numbers are there. I see the polling. I'm not idiot corporate media, right? And so at the same time, so March for Our Lives, we got zero gun reform, and and when Congress does nothing about it, there's no pushback, there's no rage, there's no nothing. And so, climate change, it's, that's doing better than the rest, but it's about to get killed and build back better in the Senate. Then George Floyd, you're indisputably correct that there was massive protests. Not just the young, but a lot of Americans now can't, sick of how black people are being treated by cops in this country. But zero police reform in the Senate, killed by Republicans and idiot corporate Democrats, and no pushback, nothing. Where are they?
Hey, the crystal ball, where is it? I wish as much as anyone, I would like to see, and one thing to have some hope or a sense that where are they? Movements start out of seemingly nowhere often. The Arab Spring started by one man self-immolating, lighting himself on fire in Tunisia, a vegetable vendor that set off an entire wave of uprisings and revolutions that led to the Indignados and movements in Spain that led to Occupy Wall Street. Things can emerge in some unpredictable moment, but you're very right that right now feels like a real ebbing. And where are the protesters? They were out by the millions, but then, as you say, our leaders in Congress fail to act. But just wait and see how long they will be able to fail to act when 70, 80, 85% of the US public is behind these measures that they refuse to pass, say, in this
No, but Michael,
bill.
again, let's keep it real, brother. That's where we are now, 75 to 80% on most of progressive priorities. On lowering drug prices, it's 88%, 9 out of 10 Americans want it. And then Manchin and Sinema go, no, our donors don't want it. We're corrupt and we took bribes from the drug companies, and everybody goes away. Nobody's fighting for it. It's done.
I think that the generation that came out of Occupy has learned a lot of things. Occupy was this wonderfully beautiful, original, but really chaotic and kind of finally self-defeating movement, right? We all saw that. It didn't want structure, it didn't want plans or policies. But the generation that came out of it organized, and many of the movements, like take the Sunrise Movement, for example, essentially driving the climate movement for Gen Z and the younger people, who really did put forward a Green New Deal that AOC brought to Congress. Just because our short-sighted congresspeople and senators can't pass these measures that are so sensible and which will rejuvenate our economy, build our green energy transition, all these really intelligent ideas, that's their problem. But you're right, this new generation is gonna have to step up. I think they're in the process of trying to figure out, having restructured themselves. They grew from Occupy. The same people who were at Occupy Wall Street helped shepherd in this new generation by teaching them to make more concrete policy reform, strategic movement building, having a blueprint for what you want to achieve in the real policy realm and going and doing it. Now, the fact that they haven't yet done it means you're right. There's gonna need to be an escalation, because if they're not listening to what the people demand, then the people need to figure out a new way of forcing them to listen. Occupy Wall Street was this original call to action, right? Occupying parks. You didn't hear us, the 1%. We're out of work, we're in college debt, we're gonna occupy. And maybe something like that, or something dramatic, mass strikes, shutdowns, marches that get the public's attention are gonna be needed now.
Yeah, people talk about a general strike. People talk about a general strike. That ain't gonna happen. I think that that's super interesting. It made a giant difference in Egypt in their revolution. But who the hell's gonna organize a general strike? With whose army? So, Michael, my point is, and once you get past the grumpiness today, but it's justified. It's justified, right? We're all outraged, right? But there is a reason why. There is a reason why people aren't in the streets, because we have no leadership. And by the way, I saw at Occupy, anytime a leader stepped up, everybody else wanted to tear him down, right? Or tear her down. Because, oh, why are you the leader? Maybe I should be the leader. And so there are some leaders. By the way, you talk about the guy who self-immolated in Tunisia. I've self-immolated 17 times to try to get people to fight. And what happens? Other left-wingers come in and attack and go, oh no, but you did it the wrong way and you were slightly rude and NPR told me to whisper, and over again. Don't we need a populist leader to say, right now, I want you to go and protest, surround Congress. Don't be like the idiot right-wingers and actually break in or do violence. But God damn it, we need paid family leave. We need lower drug prices. We need $15 minimum wage. Right now, as elected officials, I don't see a single one doing that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you see, well, Cori Bush, she went out and slept on the steps to demand, she did several nights sleeping out on congressional steps. I think the AOCs and the more radical, the anti-corporate, the real progressive generation of new Democrats really would be ready for that. And they know that they need that. I think the new generation of younger elected leaders know that you need a movement behind you to force those policies into reality. But I very much agree. I don't know why, I'm not quite sure. I think that this identity politics moment we're in, the culture wars, the fact that the left really still manages to be really expert at kind of eating away at itself, as you say, and tearing itself apart by sort of a purity. Everything's got to be speaking to everyone all at once, and if anyone feels somewhat slighted, the project is doomed somehow, and the right-wing media gets a hold of it. It's really a moment in which the left needs to re-examine itself. But the purpose of what I wanted to tell in this story is a hopeful story because we have seen growth. We have grown and emerged from this Occupy era less disorganized and unstructured than before. We might not have the answers. The new movement, clearly, the new generation has to figure out new techniques, new skills, but they're so adept at technology. They know really how to organize intuitively and do it in a way that sort of speaks to their generational desperation for change, whether it's climate, student debt, healthcare. That I do have confidence that they're gonna find a new, it's not in the streets right now. It should be, you're right, congressional juggling and this circus act where they don't actually get anything done should be bringing out the masses. But I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't happen soon. So
look, for God's sake, somebody's got to do it, okay? And if there's somebody else the leader, great, support them, don't tear them down, okay? So, and look, we're out of time, but I gotta say, corporate Democrats did a brilliant job of co-opting progressives in this last go around, okay? They brought him in, Biden did this BS transition thing, and he brought the Sunrise Movement in, and AOC in, and all these people. And it was always a trick, and I told them, it's an ambush, right? They walk right into it, and then at the end, Biden and Pelosi pull the rug out and go, psych, we're not doing any of those things.
What would you have the progressives and the climate generation do? I mean, they got their
fight the corporate Democrats, fight the corporate media. But do not go into their ambushes and go, I guess there was nothing we could do. We should surrender to Manchin and Sinema. No, say Manchin and Sinema are corrupt. They take money from drug companies and oil companies. Those are bribes. Say it, for God's sake, AOC, Bernie, whoever. I don't care who it is. Cori Bush did a great job on the steps. I love that, do more. You see how it worked? It's not complicated. When you take action and you demand concessions from power, you get it. If you don't demand from power, you won't get it. It's not like we figured this out. Frederick Douglass figured it out. Everybody's figured it out. But we never asked for concessions from power. So for everyone who's watching, who's young, who's on the left, do not listen to people in power. Go rise up right now. And yes, it's okay to have leaders. Pick one of you as a leader. I don't care who. I don't care. And go out there and demand concessions from power. Do not ask, do not plead. And when the media yells at you, tell them to shut up. We don't care about you on CNN or New York Times or NPR. You are not our allies. You've never been our allies. God damn it, get in the fight. That's what you need. Okay, sorry.
There you go.
Okay.
I think you needed my book to tell people that.
All right,
nice
look,
one.
Michael, you're brilliant. I appreciate you coming on. And by the way, he also wrote the Cochabamba water wars about them for the Bolivian Times. I wish we could talk about that another time. Fortunately, we're out of time here, but make sure you check out the book, Generation Occupy, Reawakening. American democracy, because God knows it needs reawakening. Michael, thank you for coming on and putting up with me.
All right, Cenk, good. Onward to the frontier, to the barricade.
To the barricades, for God's sake, finally. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.